Jason Postill was a professional baseball player for 5 years before an injury pushed him into sports retirement. He had always dreamed of getting into real estate, thought getting a brokerage license was the best way to go about doing it, and so he did. He ended up working for Marcus & Millichap, where he focused on multifamily investment properties. He later decided he wanted to pursue his long-term vision, which was to create his own full-service brokerage and investment firm, which he did last year. In this episode, Jason walks us through his transition and one of the most important lessons he has learned over the years: narrowing your focus. All right, Jason Postill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dion. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Your background is quite interesting, and I'll let you go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you got started in real estate.
Sure. So, I don't have a real estate background, right? My background has been baseball. I was a ex-professional baseball player. Grew up. That was the only thing I did. I knew. Long story short, through high school, went to college. I got an opportunity to play professionally, and it ended one day with an injury, and it happened short. So, I always had this burning desire with real estate. I don't know what it was. I remember just being little and being on the beach really and seeing buildings, and I didn't even know the term real estate right at that point. And just I was like, man, I had that. I don't know what it was, but my 5-year-old daughter has that same thing, because we'll go by buildings downtown. She's like, "Daddy, look at that deal," or it's so cute. And so it comes from something within, right? But going back to the athlete side, just that was all I had, right? Was general knowledge, like, oh, buildings, and then I got a little older. Once we started going on these road trips, we were staying in hotels and apartments, and I'd look up and see building, and it was an apartment. I'd just see windows and think, man, they're paying $1,500 for that room. And I'd see windows and I'd just see dollars, right? And then I'm thinking, well, somebody owns that, and then a lot of people think, well, it's a big institution, or but again, going through minor leagues and hearing some guys talk, eventually it got me interested, and then that day did come to an end, and I just again was there with some general knowledge and thought, well, I had to get a real estate license, and which you don't. For you guys listening, getting into it, you don't need to get a real estate license to get into real estate. So without getting too long-winded here, Dion, that really started. It was just me getting my license, but then figuring it out and focusing more on apartments, but selling some flips or just learn the business, until finally I just said, look, this is a different ball game. You got to learn, the underwriting, the commercial side. So, I was fortunate enough to put myself with a larger commercial firm, Marcus & Millichap, cut my teeth and just learn the ins and outs. And, again, was fortunate to just be surrounded by the right people, in that business. So, that was kind of the long short of kind of how I got into it. But just a different background, I guess. What you would say is for sure.
So you worked with Marcus & Millichap, which is a very well-known brokerage firm. They're all over, and they have a lot of really great research coming from Marcus & Millichap. Lots of deal flow. So that experience, while you were there, you focused mainly in apartment communities, right?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And that was one thing I noticed making that switch into commercial, right? Because people think real estate, it's this big umbrella. Again, there's residential. Then you get into commercial, and it's not just your commercial broker. You're at that, you want to turn into a specialist, right? And you hear people say, oh, the riches are in the niches, and that is true. You focus in, and a firm like that, we had apartments. You got office, industrial, retail, triple net, and it's great to get a grasp of everything, but to be general and try to, it's a lot. You're gonna not be a master of any, right? So yes, we focused on apartments and multifamily. If there was some one-offs, again, it was mobile home parks, but it fell under that multifamily umbrella. So, but we were apartment guys for sure.
And so you made a pretty big transition recently. You said you started your own brokerage firm, and now you are transitioning into purchasing your own assets, right? So can you tell us about this whole transition process?
Sure. Yes. And so, I'm, it's tough for me to, sit still alone. Right. But, to really, I think I told you one of my books that the one thing that just really got me to focus in, and it was a great recommendation. Because trying to do too many things, and especially as an entrepreneur, you'll get just, you're going to go crazy. Right. So, once I did focus in on apartments, it was great team. Um, but I fully, long-term goal, or not long-term goal, but the goal of mine was to have a full service brokerage, whether I was brokering or just had it running and operating, and could spend more time on the other side and finding all these deals, and why not start acquiring them for myself? So it, yes, last year, it just felt like the right time, right? Just, I'd be doing that team a disservice if I was trying to play investor on this side and not be a full-time broker with them. Right. So I made the jump just, and, the fourth quarter last year, and got, some agents now where, I'm trying to get everything set up. Right. We're in the process, but, got some great opportunities on the investment side that we're pursuing. And yeah, it was a leap of faith, but, we got some momentum now, and we're rolling. So it's exciting for sure.
So in your new business, what kind of assets is it that you guys are planning to target?
So apartments, that of course is a sweetheart. The the C class value, that's been very hard. Everybody's been chasing those for quite some time, and we don't know. We might be, who knows? There's a lot of talk, so it's hard to speculate. But that, apartments is again the sweetheart. But the mobile home parks, that's been an asset class that, we've been working on. I've been studying, underwriting, learning, databasing, and so we're seeing a lot more opportunities, higher yields. Uh, it's just, some people cringe, right? But it's okay, right? I mean, it doesn't. It's the opportunity, the cash flow. It's love them. So to answer your question, yeah, apartments, mobile home parks. If it falls under that multifamily umbrella, affordable housing is in demand a lot of places right now across the country. Right, with there's a couple counties I'm around where the city's really in need and wanting some investors and developers coming in and putting up some affordable. So yeah, mobile home parks, anything affordable. Which, right now, unfortunately, there's a uncertainty going around, and but the demand for affordable housing is always going to be there, and so that's where we're at.
So, throughout this whole process, what would you say would be kind of like the most challenging, points for you, and how are you approaching those?
So yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the challenging, I mean, even going back, like I was saying, coming into the real estate business, whether you do have a 9 to 5, if you're working a 9 to 5 job, and um, you're trying to get out of the rat race, right? I mean, as a broker, that's a different rat race, right? I mean, it's you're chasing a check. I would take that personally all day, working 24 hours by myself, run after a check, then, but that's my opinion, but it's a different rat race to get out of. But yeah, to I'm sorry to to go too sideways, but the challenges in starting out is, like I said, narrowing your focus into one or two things. It's not just going, I'm going to flip a home. I've never actually flipped a single family home ever. When I got into the business, my inspector, we were going to do a project, and then something told me, look, learn multifamily. Don't even spend time on all these other things, because you're going to get lost in the sauce. So the challenge for me was just staying in one lane, and it wasn't one lane. It was like two, three. And so, finally over the last couple of years, I've came in. So that's been my personal challenge, is just staying, in one lane, and no matter what happens. I've had deals blow out where it's just like, everybody came out okay. They got their, but it was like, man, and I can see how people are like, I'm done. I want the check every 2 weeks. But if hey, look, that's going to happen, and you just keep going and going and going, then it just takes one, right? And so, that's the biggest challenge in mine or any entrepreneurs that go after, opportunity here or there, is just, no matter what, just if you have that passion, you're going to get through those tough times. But that's one of more my personal I've seen challenges.
Yeah. So, and on that point, actually, I'd like to expand upon that, because I find this to be quite common, a common challenge among a lot of people. It's kind of like, that dangling carrot. It's like, oh, here's a carrot right there. There's another carrot over there.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just like, oh, that's a great opportunity too. Self-storage, oh, that's a great opportunity. Wholesaling, that's a great opportunity. I can get some fast cash.
Right.
And then it's just like, you don't really have any focus, and then before you know it, it's kind of like they're, out of the business, yeah, and or broke, right? Because they spent all their money, doing all these courses and chasing after this deal and that deal. um so what would you say that you have done to try to just kind of center and focus yourself on kind of one aspect?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a tough for a lot of people to do with early on. Is for me, it was saying no, right, to a lot more things. And I forget guys that say it. These are quotes from Hyde, right? Is you need to start saying no to a lot of things and yes. But some will argue like say yes to everything, get the opportunity, right? But again, for me, I'm not out there preaching, but it was just for those, like you said, dangling the carrot. And for me, I'm very visual and I can see I'm not psychic, right? Because that's the optimistic that can crash and burn, but it's seeing an opportunity like, yeah, it's a good idea. But after a while of trying to do some of those, yeah, it might work, but knowing if I just put that focus into one, maybe two things, I'm going to get where I want to be and then start on the next thing. So, yeah, it was opportunities. It could be friends, that you might not want to say no. For me, my friends, it's almost like, I don't want to say I cut everybody out, right? But friends from college, those were more like drinking buddies. To me, that wasn't friends. I don't even drink alcohol anymore, right? So it's like, to me, it's just saying no and not having to just keep justifying yourself, right? To people, like, because you could spend time just telling people, no, hey, I'm focused on this, and just start eliminating things that aren't getting you to your end goal. And it sounds like it's a selfish thing, but it's at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself in the mirror like I do and say, look, where am I wanting to go? Is this helping me get there? Is that helping me get there? And my daughter, right? I'm doing this for my little baby girl to give her a better life, right? So it's not just me. It's, there's a story behind that. So, yeah, I guess, recommend, just write it down, right? Write your goals. That's one. And that'll tell you your answers, right? Is this opportunity comes. Okay, well, look at your goals. Does that fit in line with your goals? Nope. Okay, sorry. and that's it. So, maybe
So
easier. Sounds easier than said than done, right? But
yeah, I mean, it is really tough. I mean, I started a business. It was in 2010 in Beijing.
nice.
And I mean, when we got started, I mean, I swear our target market was everybody. And I mean, it doesn't work that way, right? And you learn pretty quickly, like you have to really kind of hone in and focus and segment, your customers. I mean, I
Yeah.
eventually realized that our growth was stunted because we were so spread out. And also, through that experience, though, I discovered, okay, what was our true profit center. And then we eventually, I just kind of, like you said, I just said no to everything else. I had to cut
Yeah.
out everything, but I mean, I think again, for like a lot of newer people too, that are just going into business for themselves, or, real estate or whatnot, because this also applies to that too. They tend to just complete and total lack of focus. One of the things I thought that you brought up, that's quite a salient point, is referring to your goals. You mentioned, constantly going back to your goals. Now, do you think that, in addition to that, what role has business planning played for you? Do you incorporate business planning type practices?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you broke up right after the goals, writing the goals. Yeah. You
Hmm.
broke up right there. And then you said apply in business
Okay,
practices.
yeah,
Did you
I'm
say, do I
sorry.
write no, it was the internet
Mhm.
connection. Did you say, do I write goals that apply into business practices? Could you just repeat? There was a glitch
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my,
yeah.
right.
Okay, so basically you had mentioned the goals, right?
Right.
And you said you referenced back to those goals, because I mean, typically, I mean, I would imagine too, in a business plan, your goals kind of play into your business planning too,
Yeah.
right? And your
Oh,
business
yes.
plan's like your roadmap. So are you applying like a business plan like into your business at all, or how does that not even fit into the picture, or what suggestions would you have for
Yes.
people?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So goals, like the question, just so I'm again understand, are my goals that I'm writing and planning correlate with my business and
Hmm.
plan?
Okay.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
to give an example, again, I'm gonna keep referring back to this book. They're not sponsoring me, I swear. But I used to write goals, even subconscious, or well, going way back, right? Like going to a professional baseball when I was 10 years old. I still have a letter, and I would write like, I want to be a professional baseball with the New York Yankees or whatever. And I didn't even know like, oh, I'm going to write my goal, because I didn't start even doing that till I was 26 or 27 years old. Right. But, so yes, most of the goals were just, materialistic, or I want to, yeah, but no, getting into the business world, and reading and studying, and even learning how to structure those goals, every day I write daily goals, weekly, my monthly, 6 month, year, 5 year, and just someday, which are more just like what people think are outrageous, right? Like I want 10,000 units or something, so that's one of mine. But yeah, so business, to go back to that, a daily goal, my business to, on the brokerage side, there's the brokerage, and then now the past investment side. But um, as a goal to on the brokerage side, to get listings, acquire assets, to help owners trade or 1031 exchange, I need to make a number of calls, right? That doesn't just happen. So to do that, I need to make 200 calls a week. That relates how many a day, how many meetings am I, I have goals that I want to meet, 3 to 5 people a week that are true owners. I want to meet. So yeah, I break those down to, okay, well, how does that hit my annual goals? How? So, yeah. And it translates, I mean, I started my business last, fourth quarter of last year. So, we're in the full swing, but yeah, absolutely. I keep with mailers, how many am I sending out? And it does. And then I intertwine some personal, goals, like how many units do I want? Or, what do I want for my baby girl, to buy her something, crazy. So absolutely. And it just helps me stay focused and not just wake up with, oh, I'm going to do whatever today. Right. It just, that gets nothing done. So absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. Okay, so breaking it down into kind of like just bite-sized pieces, like you said, kind of like your daily goal, and your daily goal adds up to your weekly goal, etc. And that kind of gives you your target to keep you focused and everything. And then also saying no if something else comes in that may seem attractive, but you're like, okay, and you look back at it, you're like, no, this doesn't really fit with my plan and my goal, so no, it's an automatic no, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah. So as far as like new people that are looking at jumping into the business, one of the things that you mentioned was you don't need a real estate license. And I still see this a lot out there on social media. People asking, do I need to get a real estate license? What would you say to those people?
you know it kind of depends really what you want to do, right? You got to first figure out what you want to do, because you might need a license. You might, with the wholesale, and again, I don't get into any of that, so I don't want to spend too much time talking on that, because there are ways you can do, say, in some states it's illegal, you can go to jail. So I recommend, if you think you're trying to get into a transaction that you're not owning it, get a license, just so that whatever. But um, if you want to just acquire small apartment buildings to own and create that passive income, more house hack, right? Which there's some athletes that I've talked to, that did that when they played, their rookie season. Which if I would have known that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So um, you don't need a license in the general for most of the activities investors do. a lot of developers, investors, they don't want a real estate license. There's a lot of things that go along with that. I say things, liabilities license. There's just it's a business license, right? So I would say to the people that are getting in, just figure out what it is you want to do. If you want to be a flipper, if you can benefit a lot of times from it too. Okay, so but again, just figure out if it's more transactional, it'd be good to lean towards that, or find somebody that has that, partner with them, right? So the other side of it, no, just again, find the people that are doing it without a license, legally, ethically, and learn that way. That's what I would say to them. And then get to school, but don't sit there and think you got to go to a school, get a class, and do the analysis paralysis thing and read a million books and think you got to do this and gain it all before you act, right? Because you can read all these books, and if you don't act on it, right, it's going to get you zero. So that's, I guess, what I would say.
Now, one thing I noticed that and it's come up twice so far in our conversation, is when you thought back to when you were playing professional baseball, it almost seemed as, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it almost seemed as though there was something that you found out later after getting to the industry that you realized, hey, if I had known this, I probably would have done something different. Can you expand upon that and tell us what that was? That kind of like aha moment that came later for you?
Right. And and everybody's, wish I should get, you hear that. But it's good to just talk, because I heard one of my mentors, you don't know what you don't know, right? That's just, you don't, right? How can you? So, there was actually an NFL player. He, I don't want to tell a story because I don't know the full story, but I'll have him tell his full story. But he house hacked, right? Had a quadruplex that he, rookie season to whatever bonus, or I don't know. He could have raised the money for all I know, right? But what he did was, during his rookie season, he lived in one unit and rented it out. The other three, whether it was teammates or other people in the community, and I mean that not only paid itself off during, I don't know how many acquired, but yeah, just knowing that, like, man, that was, now for me, my rookie season was would have been 10 years ago almost, right? So that's a long period of time for real estate, paying, going up, appreciation, different things. So yeah, I smile at it because it was like, man, well, hey, but you know what? Now I know that. So it's not me getting bitter, like, oh, poor me. It's like, no, now I'm so excited. I know that. And then I can do that and help others and teach other athletes that are sitting in those locker rooms, just throwing their money out crazy places. Not saying everybody does, but I've been in those locker rooms, and I know it's not going all into real estate, right? So for better lack of terms. So that's, little things like that. It's just, I liked real estate, but I didn't know investments whatsoever. Had just no idea.
So even basically, it almost seems as though kind of like getting started earlier. So it's like, go out, get the knowledge, once you know that it's there, get educated, and then get started sooner rather than later. Because at that time, I mean, you're in a very good position to kind of just get going right away, right? Just doing what you were doing in professional baseball, and I mean, there was no conflict for you.
Right. And I don't want to say there's so much free time, but I mean, I remember my rookie season, we played 20 games straight before we had a day off. But those days we were playing, the games aren't till 6. You go to the field at 2, and so like you have all day. Yeah, you go to the gym. Well, what are you doing? Right. So for me, I should have been studying, learning everything that I did, with whatever. I mean, everything's free, right? So I'm not saying go buy a court, but yeah, go if you like somebody and they're doing what you're doing, it pays for proximity, right? There's some more, right? But you can find everything out for free, just Googling things and just learning, studying books. But yeah, I could have spent a lot of those hours, doing things different. But like I said, it's great now, just knowing and helping those guys coming out of high school or college into the minors where, they got some time to learn some other valuable skills. Help set them up.
So you mentioned books, right? So and there was one that you mentioned earlier. So what book recommendation would you have for people?
So for me, I keep talking about the focusing because that's just been me. And again, I know entrepreneurs that's a focusing. We love opportunities, but got to stay in one lane. All right, I'm speaking for me. I want to say you. I got to stay in one, maybe two lanes. So the book that I had read that kind of changed was The One Thing by Gary Keller. Right, it's one of these things. I think I should. Yeah, this one. Right. So that was referred to me from a group actually that I met that came down and visited from DC, where I was based in Jacksonville, Tenny and Leslie, right? And they had their in the syndication as well. And, we were talking and that was a recommendation and just goal setting and different things. Cause my goals were just sporadic, but I didn't have them outlined, right? And so that even outlines how to set the goals. So yeah, I recommend that one for trying to stay focused for sure. And there's been some other great ones if you're getting into the syndication or, we're doing more on the single asset and having some key partners in on these great opportunities. But everybody talks about the best ever syndication, but I mean, that's A to Z, 400. I don't know if I had that like this one. Yeah. I mean, this is a big book, but this walks you through A to Z, right? If that's what you're trying to do, stay in lane, figure out what you want to do. If it's flipping, I don't have any flipping, but those are my recommendations. The two that got me like, okay, stay focused, business outline, this is syndication, whether it's syndication or not, this is more where I'm heading and just, do that. So those are my recommendations.
So how could our listeners get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah. So my jpcapitalsolutions.com, that's my business I just started from last year. And again, I'm going to be interviewing some of those athletes. I have a channel just showing underwriting different stuff. It's like a YouTube athlete to investor. So you guys can check out some of that stuff and find me there.